everyone, it's your girl Jacqueline, and I am back with another phenomenal lecture of the HBCU Success Show. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss a single interview. Like this video. Comment below. Let us know what resonates with you as the conversation is taking place. And make sure you share this page with others that you think will benefit from these conversations. I am calling these lectures because, in case you didn't notice with Dr. Hodges last week, our alumni are preaching and teaching as they share their story from college to exceptional career success. Now, speaking of Dr. Hodges, there's one thing that I want to make clear about his interview. Dr. Hodges wrote his book, Bet on Yourself, from Zero to Millions before he was on television. That means he went from zero to millions before he had his television show. He acquired a certain level of success professionally and financially through his academics, expertise in veterinary medicine, and his savvy investing in real estate, stocks, and so on. And I want to make that point of clarification because oftentimes in the Black community, especially with our young people, we tend to think that you can't achieve a certain level of success unless you are an athlete, an entertainer, or you're on television. And Dr. Hodges did all of that before television. I just want to make that clear. I also want to make that point of clarification because, well, today's guest is also on television, but it's her profession. Hear me out, okay? I am so excited to bring you today's guest because she represents the younger generation. She proves that you do not have to have 20, 10, or even 5 years under your belt to have exceptional career success. I'm talking about premier news anchor, Miss RaShaun Haynes. Now, I am not a trained journalist, so it can be a bit nerve-wracking trying to do the job of a trained professional, but I promise you that she made it so easy with her warm spirit, her contagious energy, her humor, and her humility that I think will resonate throughout this conversation. I am so thrilled that she is sharing her story, and I'm so excited to bring it to you today. But as you know, before I get into the interview, I have to first pay tribute to the HBCU. So let's give it up for the Big Blue, Tennessee State University. Tennessee State University, where excellence is our habit, was established in 1912. Located in Nashville, Tennessee, TSU is the only state-funded HBCU in the state. Nestled in Music City, Tennessee State was recognized by Billboard magazine for having one of the top commercial music programs in the world in 2023. Tennessee State has received over $100 million in research awards, making it the second highest earner of all HBCUs. TSU is focusing the funding on innovations in renewable energy, sustainable technologies, and global food security. TSU is home to many notable alumni, including Dr. Levi Watkins Jr., a renowned cardiac surgeon who was the first to successfully implant a defibrillator in a human. In his honor, TSU established the Levi Watkins Jr. Institute, which offers a pipeline for minority students to become medical doctors and to ensure there is a steady supply of physicians and dentists committed to address health equity in underserved communities. Tennessee State University's most notable alum is media mogul and philanthropist Oprah Winfrey, who is a product of the Mass Communications Department. TSU's Mass Communications Department offers a hands-on approach to prepare students for the evolving media market. This award-winning academic program continues to produce rising media stars with bright futures. One of those rising stars is shooting fast and shining bright.
Good morning, Central Illinois, and welcome to 25 News Saturday. I'm RaShaun Haynes. And welcome to 25 News Sunday. I'm RaShaun Haynes. Good morning, Central Illinois, and happy Sunday. Thanks for joining us here on 25 News Sunday. I'm RaShaun Haynes.
Ms. RaShaun Haynes is a fall 2020 graduate of Tennessee State University. During her senior year at TSU, she solidified her ability to rise to unprecedented challenges as she graduated early during a global pandemic. Now, with less than 3 years post-college, Ms. Haynes has already proven herself as a reputable news producer and anchor, as she was selected to anchor a brand new 2-hour weekend newscast for her network. In this role, she leverages her time from TSU, where she was the host and producer of TSU TV News 98. Though now anchoring in Central Illinois, RaShaun continues to represent and bring Tennessee State along with her on her weekend show.
A marching band made history this week, and not just any band, but the best band in the land. My alma mater, Tennessee State University's Aristocrat of Bands, has become the first collegiate band to win a Grammy.
During her undergrad days at TSU, she volunteered with the Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee and Mean Girls Empowerment Bully Prevention Program. Ms. Haynes, a native of Dalton, Illinois, is a beautifully spirit-filled, determined, fast-track rising star and another prestigious alumna of Tennessee State University. RaShaun Haynes is HBCU Success. HBCU Success fam, please welcome to the show Miss RaShaun Haynes. RaShaun, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Jacqueline. So glad to be here.
Absolutely. I am so happy to have you here. You are an example, and I have been wanting someone on this show, such as yourself, who is a recent college graduate who has already had unprecedented and exceptional career progress. So I am looking forward to this fast track conversation that we are about to have today. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out. It's an honor.
Thank you. So let's get into it. So I like to always start off with an attitude of gratitude. So if you don't mind letting us know maybe 2 to 3 things that you're grateful for today.
Well, first and foremost, I'm thankful for my family. I could not in no way, form, or fashion be here without them and their support and everything they do behind closed doors. I'm also grateful for my relationship with God and my faith that's allowed me to be here. So those are 2 things that I am grateful for daily.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I agree with that. So let's get into your journey. And again, I want the audience to realize this is a fast track. And full disclosure, when I called RaShaun, I said, RaShaun, not to put you on the spot, but these are the things that we're looking for on the show. And you said, oh, absolutely. So yes. I am just very delighted to have you and for you to share that story today. So you are a graduate of Tennessee State University. Please help us understand why you chose Tennessee State. Did you only want to go to an HBCU, or did you happen to look at all the colleges and universities and Tennessee State was the best option for you and it just happened to be an HBCU?
Well, my college search wasn't an in-depth one. I didn't think too much about it. I knew I wanted to go to college, but it wasn't until a random special that I watched on TV that I realized what I wanted to major in. And I chose Tennessee State University because my high school band director actually is a TSU alumna. He would always talk about it and everybody would brush it off. But when it came time for me to look for a school, I thought Tennessee State University, and I looked into it, and I only applied to 3 schools. That was Northern Illinois, Alcorn State, and Tennessee State. And after visiting all 3 schools, I absolutely fell in love with Tennessee State's campus. They had my major. I had family in Tennessee, so my mom was comfortable with me being 8 hours away from home. So that's pretty much how I landed at Tennessee State University, and I just took off from there.
Where are you from?
I'm from the suburbs south of Chicago, Illinois. I originate from Dalton.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. All right. So 8 hours away is quite a distance. How was that college transition for you from high school?
It wasn't too hard because I'm adventurous, and I've always dreamed of this day, packing up, going to college, getting out of the house. So the transition wasn't too hard for me. I actually remember being at Tennessee State one day and my mom called and said, oh, so you think you're not going to talk to me every day? And she reeled me back in. It was like, I understand you're on this new adventure, but don't forget about home. So my
Mhm.
transition was pretty smooth. I had a roommate who was from Memphis. We would explore campus together, and it was a communication barrier at first with all the lingo that we grew up with. But I had a great transition into Tennessee State University. I absolutely enjoyed it.
Good. So you majored in communications with a focus in journalism,
Yes.
and you minored in psychology.
Yes.
So let's talk about the communications and journalism part first. What were your career aspirations? Did you know that you wanted to go into the news arena when you focused on that major?
Not at all.
Okay.
I was a radio head for as
Okay.
long as I can remember. I grew up listening to WGCI and 92.3, and I love that. So I went to Tennessee State with the aspirations of being a radio host or a jockey. But I
Okay.
had a professor that asked me one day, I was in an advanced class. That's part of the fast track that we'll get into later. And she asked me, "What are you doing on Wednesdays at this time?" Nothing really. And she introduced me to the newscast. She said, "Why don't you come to the Performing Arts Center at this time?" And I walked in, and they were getting ready to do the school's newscast. And that's how I was first introduced to news. And I realized that I kind of had a knack for it that I didn't expect to have.
So you were going in to be a radio disc jockey.
Mm-hmm.
And were pulled into something you didn't even know you were interested in.
Yes.
And that turned the course of your trajectory into the anchoring. Let's talk about that fast track a little bit here. And you talked about being in those classes with those upperclassmen. How did that happen?
Well, me being independent, when it came time to choose my classes, I picked them myself. And I will always go to an advisor to double check to make sure that I'm on course. But I wanted to be in control of my education.
I used to do the same thing.
Yes. So I picked the class not knowing that it was an advanced class. However, I was still able to take it. And in that class, I was a sophomore with juniors and seniors. And just being surrounded by people who have not only been at Tennessee State for a good amount of time, but they actually realize what it is that they want to do in life. So being around people who were more so on a focused path kind of helped me realize that some stuff I don't necessarily have to pay attention to because this is possible. This has my attention. I have to put this amount of work in. So that right there kind of changed my work ethic and made me realize like, I could really be ahead if I listen to these people who are already 2 to 3 steps ahead of me.
That was very smart. That was very smart on your part as a sophomore. So you minored in psychology as well. What made you choose to minor in psychology?
I was looking for something that complemented communications really well. And so with psychology, I thought interviews. So if I can understand how the brain works and read people's body language and their emotions, that'll tie in really well with interviewing and talking to people. Because I mean, in communications, you communicate a lot. And what better way to help build that communication skill than understanding the mental of individuals and how that all plays a part. So I landed on psychology because I felt like it complemented it very well. And that will work out for me in the end.
That was very smart. Like, okay, so you're choosing the advanced classes so that you can learn and focus from the upperclassmen, but you're also trying to understand the mentality of the people that you're going to be interviewing. That was very, very smart on your part. I like that. That was a good blend there.
Thank you.
So let's talk about some of the academic lessons that you learned in some of these courses. What's something that you learned that you look back on and you're like, that really came in handy, or wow, I'm using that now?
Oh, everything. And I wish I would have taken more notes, or I wish I would have taken note taking more seriously, because I truly believe when you take notes, you're writing your own degree. You can go to the classes, you can do the assignments, but unless you document it and keep it, you'll look back and realize like what my employer is asking for is an assignment that my professor asked for years ago. So just a little bit of everything, finding stories, news writing, how to appeal to the audience, engaging the audience, finding that they like, and just that connection, a little bit of everything I've noticed along the way is something I learned in school, even editing and shooting with a camera and everything. But I can say one of the things that stuck to me the most, I didn't actually learn in the classroom. I had the opportunity to travel to New York with some professors and a few other students. And yet again, I was the youngest out of that group as well. And we went to a bunch of marketing agencies, NBC Studios, and iHeartRadio. So I was super excited for iHeart and NBC Studios. And we were sitting in the studio of the Breakfast Club. And I remember one of the DJs said to us, he said, what you do on the clock is for them, but what you do off the clock is for you. And when I sit back and I reflect on that, it's just like, wow, you know, I can work so hard. I can do this at work, but I mean, hey, that's my job at the end of the day. But going home and taking the extra steps, and YouTube, you know, YouTube University is very real. Learning skills behind the scenes and coming back bigger and better, just taking the next step of what they taught. I feel like that also plays a major role in why I was able to advance in the way. Because I take it home and I hone on the craft and the skills and the critiques. And that right there was one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received. And it stuck to me to this day. What you do on the clock is for them, and what you do off the clock is for you.
That's excellent. And it's part of how you go above and beyond what's expected as well, too, because you're putting in that extra work, that extra time. And like you said, honing that craft and that skill set. So that's really good advice. And that's awesome. You got to go to the Breakfast Club. I like their platform. Cool.
It was later in the day, so I didn't get a chance to meet them, but being in the space was captivating.
Yes, and especially since that was one of your original passions, to be on radio, right? Yeah, that's cool. So let's talk about a class that was a little challenging for you, and how did you overcome that? I'm looking forward to this one because I can tell that you are on top of everything. So I'm looking forward to hearing how and what you can advise for others who are going through a challenging time or a challenging class.
The class that challenged me the most was a psychology class that I took. I can't exactly remember what happened, but I ended up registering for classes late. So the psychology class that I got, I believe it was physiology. It was an advanced class for psychology major because all the smaller classes had already been filled. And I remember after a test, I think I got like a C or a D. I wasn't happy with the grade. And I talked to the teacher and I said, look, I'm a communications major. I'm minoring in psychology. This class is way more advanced than I thought. It was a great class, very interesting, but you needed to have taken a few classes before that class. And I noticed that I was already behind. So I talked to the teacher. So she already knew my circumstances. And so I would take time to talk to her. If I didn't have a good test, I would go in her office hours. She allowed me to retake tests. And I really learned that when people see that you care, they will also go the extra mile to help you out because they know you're not just here just to be here. You're here to succeed. So I always try to make that a point, and I let her know, like, I don't get it. I don't understand, but I know you see me trying.
Yes.
So establishing that one-on-one connection that allowed her to help me, or help her, help me, help her, however it goes. We were able to help each other. And I passed. I've never been so happy to receive a C in my entire life. But I mean, even the C took a lot of work, a lot of effort, and that by far was one of the hardest classes. But I made it my mission to make sure the teacher knew that I need extra help.
Yes. Well, I don't know how large those classes were, but I remember one of the principles that I always had was make sure you were just not another number to your professor, make sure they know you. And I can remember saying to myself, and it's true, sometimes hustle and desire makes a difference between a B and an A, or an F and a C, And even if it's a C, sometimes there are lessons that you learn from that class that may not translate to an A from the teacher, but there's some things that you learn and deposit inside of you, the grit, the grind, the hustle, whatever it is, to say, okay, if I can get past that, I can get past this next challenge as well too. So
Yes.
I love that. I'm a big fan of office hours as well too, getting to know the professor, make sure the professor knows you. Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think that translates also into your career as well too, right? It gives you the confidence to now go and get to know your boss and your other colleagues and things like that as well too. So again, it's some lessons that you get from that may not come in a book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, never be afraid or ashamed to ask for help. Because
That's
people,
right.
I feel like people respect you more when they see that you care.
Mm-hmm. And that you're trying. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to help. Like you said, when you have a desire, they want to help you as well. So that's good.
Yeah.
And especially at an HBCU. And that's the thing about it as well, too, is kind of that family unit that's there. And they want to help.
Absolutely.
So that's good. So let's talk a little fun here, for example. Take us back, like what, 3 years or so? But take us back to your undergrad days. What's a song that when you hear it, it just takes you back? Like, oh my God, those were the best days.
Oh my goodness. A song that takes me back. It has to be Cardi B,
Okay.
Bodak Yellow. I
Okay.
remember it would come on and everybody be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That song right there takes me back.
Yeah. Yeah. Cardi was running it for a minute. What was that,
He
like
was.
2019 or something? I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a Cardi
Mm-hmm.
fan too. So yeah, Bodak Yellow was hot. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
So you graduated from Tennessee State with
Yes.
your bachelor's in communications with your focus in journalism and your minor in psychology.
Yes.
But your last year of college was during the height of COVID. You are a COVID graduate. Please talk to us, and for the audience to understand, RaShaun graduated in December 2020. So your entire senior year was during the height of COVID. Talk to us about that.
Well, let's start here. I
Okay.
wasn't supposed to graduate fall of 2020. I was I was supposed to graduate May of 21, but because I was being an overachiever and I took on extra class hours, I graduated a semester early. Who would have thought that a
Fast
pandemic
track.
would come and
Mm-hmm.
just destroy my plans of walking across the stage and receiving all the glamour that comes with that time.
Mm-hmm.
But graduating in December, it was a bit of a challenge. Because it was Zoom. Communication classes are very much like about camaraderie, group
Yeah.
discussion, current events, and things of that nature. So being at home and not being able to have that kind of made the classes fall a little flat. But
Mm.
Tennessee State University and the professors were so creative with the way that they tried to keep us engaged. Going back to effort, I saw they were trying, so we made an effort to try. Hard. It was really hard because senior year, you've been working for this moment to do all really enjoy your last year. You're
Yeah.
graduating. This is the last time you get to be at this level of independence with like-minded individuals. I mean, college really set the tone for life. I mean, of course, life isn't always going to be like that, but leaving it was such a pivotal moment. And I felt like I didn't really get to enjoy it. I felt like I was cheated. I mean, a
Mm.
pandemic is out of everybody's hands, but it was really tough, really challenging because not only did I miss out on certain moments where we get to celebrate our accomplishment, but I was at home and I was away from my friends. I'm
Yes.
so used to being able to, hey, what you doing? Let's go to the caf, or I'm about to go here. You want to ride with me? And now I'm just at home doing virtual learning. God bless the teachers. They were doing the best they could to keep us
Sure.
engaged and make sure that we stayed on track and didn't give up because everybody's home life was different. But it was definitely a challenge because now I had to make sure that, hey, get up and get ready for class. You can't physically get up and go. And, nobody's going to be on you about it. It's the same rules apply for college now that you're at home. It's just that you have to be on top of yourself individually. And it was hard. I felt so cheated. I almost wish that I would have waited for the next semester to graduate when I was supposed to, and I felt like I took that from my parents too. They didn't get to see me walk across the stage. They didn't get to come to Nashville and enjoy a homecoming and do it big as they wanted to.
Right.
So it was hard. And I just had to accept the fact, but it's like, hey, you did it, you made it, you finished. This is something that is out of everybody's control. So I really had to focus on making the best out of a situation, but it was hard. And I kind of blame myself. Like, this is what you get for trying to be an overachiever,
No, because you did not know that we were going to go into a global pandemic. So do not put that on yourself. The fact is that you graduated. I'm sure your parents are still just as proud of you. Because sometimes you don't get the celebration. You don't get the pomp and circumstance all the time, but that's okay. And I'm sure they still had a Zoom graduation for you all, right?
Yes. Right. We were in our basement. We had a time. They said my name and woo! we still did it as best as we could.
Right. And that's all that matters. You got that degree. So, but the bottom line is that you also had to come through an unprecedented time and really get up to speed on being an online student in the moment, and still not lose track, as I'm sure you were not going to, but stay on track and get the grades, and especially while there's so much uncertainty going on in the world. So I'm glad that you talked about that and shed light on that time, and hopefully no one else has to go through that again. But you are a unique class. You're down in history as a 2020 COVID graduate.
Yeah, and I also had to convince myself to give myself grace because of that. Who else is working on a degree or graduating college in the midst of a pandemic? That just doesn't happen to everybody.
Exactly.
So a lot of grace had to come out of that situation also.
Good. I'm glad you did that for yourself. That's excellent. So once you graduated from college, talk to us about that transition from college to career. What was that process like?
Well, I would say it kind of felt like I was at a standstill for a while. Being fresh out of college, with not a lot of experience, people aren't necessarily looking for those, at least not in my field, at least not in Chicago. Chicago is the third largest market for media. And I was just thinking, these people aren't checking for me. They are not looking for me. And I actually had to tell my parents that, like, you guys, I'm trying. I was always applying to something, even things I knew I wasn't qualified for. But I mean, what's the worst that can happen from trying?
That's right.
It was actually very hard. And then I kind of had to convince myself you may not be able to find a job in your field, which is okay because it happens to a lot of people, but you can still find a job. And my parents were very concerned at the time because, you have a degree, find a field in your degree. It just made a lot more sense to them that way. But it was a struggle. And I knew that in my career field, gets you in the door, what keeps you there. And with me realizing that about my career, all my connects, all my professors, all my help is in Nashville. Here I am in Chicago on the island by myself. And I'm like, I need to know people because there are plenty of jobs in this industry, in this city. Yes, I'm new, but I can find somebody who can help me out. So I enrolled in the Illinois Media School with that mindset, knowing that I need to know somebody. Something else that was taught at school, Eric Warner, my professor, actually taught me that. It's about who you know. So I'm looking for people to know so they can get my foot in the door and my knowledge can keep me there. Okay. And I enrolled in the Illinois Media School. I met the right people. I hustled hard and bring into that environment everything that I learned at Tennessee State University. It was like, boom, boom, boom. What's the syllabus? What are we learning? I'm in my teacher's spaces, my instructor's spaces. What are the opportunities? I'm showing up to everything. No, I'm not interested in this, but I'm going to show up anyway because it's an experience. It's an opportunity. I never turned an opportunity down. Before I did, I always questioned, what is it that I can get out of this opportunity and how can it help me in my long-term goals? So with that, I just had to hustle different. Thank you. I am one of those people who don't believe in failure. I just believe in redirection. So if it doesn't work out, I need to try a different avenue. Just never give up. Because I look around and I'm happy where I am, but I know this is not where I want to be forever. So I'm always looking to improve and grow. And so I was able to find somebody who connected me to somebody else who got me to the job that I have here. And actually to attest in my hustle to get this job. Through the Illinois Media School, we had kind of like a virtual career fair with the HR department of the overall broadcasting company that owns my station, Gray Television. And they were talking to us about jobs. And of course, it's this attitude of, I don't want to do news. Nobody wants to do news. The news is sad and all these negative connotations of the news. But I was listening because I needed a job and they were here looking for people, which meant I had a pretty good chance on being hired. And they told us about the opportunities at all these stations across the country, and it was 5 of them. So at the end, like most people do in Zoom meetings and chats, they said, we're going to drop our information in the chat box. Feel free to reach out to us. What? Say less. I have the emails of 5 HR professionals, and it's jobs all over this country.
That's okay. Right. That's
and
right.
I went to the website and I applied to a station in every city that I was interested in living in. And I sent all 5 of them 2 different applications. Hi, it was a pleasure to meet you. I'm RaShaun Haynes. I was in a Zoom. I applied to these 2 stations. And I sent that to all 5 of them. They all responded with feedback. Well, this station is a bigger market. You can start here. What about here and there? And I got connected to the news director here in Peoria. And that's kind of how that started. I mean, because I found somebody to help me get my foot in the door. And it was just history from there. I told my parents, we talked about it. They were excited. I had to move. It was only 2 hours away and it's still in Illinois. So it's not too far from home. And I just came across a great opportunity because I realized and understood that I can't do it all by myself. And I need somebody to help me. It's all in who you know. So when I found the right people, I got my foot in the door. And like I said, it's just took on from there.
I love it. I love it. Like, you have such a spirit of confidence about you, and go get it. There's a commitment and there's a determination and a drive in you. And even though you were not finding what you wanted right away, and I'm sure there were probably some days where it was like, oh, it's not working out for me, but you did not let that linger for long, and you kept going, and you took the initiative to get involved in the right groups to help you get with the right people. That is awesome. That is really, really good. Kudos to you for having that type of initiative. That's really good. Well, let's talk about your time now at WEEK 25. So as a result of you networking and talking to those HR professionals, you were introduced to the director at WEEK 25. And you started there as a producer. Is that correct?
Yes, I came in as a news producer.
Talk to us a bit about your role as a news producer.
Okay. I loved producing.
Okay.
Because I was in control. You know, I set up the show and everything. I love the power that came with producing. And I had a great trainer. And so I was picking up really fast. I enjoyed it. And I was picking up so much that after a while, I kind of just felt like I was just sitting here. You know how sometimes they treat the new employees like the babies. They want to give it to you a little bit at a time. That was kind of the case for me. So one of the managers saw that and was like, how would you feel about producing the 10 o'clock? We had 2 10 o'clocks. We had one on NBC and one on ABC. The ABC 10 o'clock didn't have a producer for a while, and it's a 30-minute show. So it wasn't too much to handle because I was learning how to produce an hour newscast. So I was like, okay, I was interested in that. And I took on that position. I was producing. I was in my bag. I was good. I was feeling good about myself. I'm like, okay, I like this. I was sleeping on news and it's really not that bad. I had some great anchors. Any questions I have, they were answering them. They were helping me out. It was really a team effort. News is a team effort. And one day I was at home, and I remember because my mom came to visit me that time, and my news director called, and he was like, I need to talk to you when you come in. And he disclosed some things. And I hung up, and my mom looked at me and she said, he couldn't wait for you to get in to say that? I said, Mom, I guess not. So I go to work and I talk to him. And mind you, I started in July, and this is like August, maybe September, about the time. And he asked me, and I walked in the room and I could see the confidence coming off of him. And he was just, and I'm thinking like, what is this conversation about to be about? And he said, how would you feel about being our new weekend morning anchor?
2 months in.
2 months in. And most people would have been like, sign me up. Yes, sir. Me, of course. But I sat there for a minute and I thought to myself, is he serious? I'm thinking, I just got no. And I told him, I said, you know what? I don't know if I'm ready. I'm just getting my feet wet, but I'm okay where I'm at, because naturally I had a fear. I just got here. I'm new and you're offering me a position. And I'm thinking like, out of everybody in the building, why me?
Right.
I'm new. I don't have experience. I felt like I was lacking too much to be considered for such a position. So of course, naturally he said, well, take some time to think about it. And when he told me that, I knew he wasn't done pushing. I said, okay, I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna talk it over with my mom. And eventually I said yes, because why wouldn't you want to accept that type of promotion? And he worked with me. I did some training, some practicing. And then again, I took the opportunity, because I'm used to being in an environment with people who are older and more experienced. Naturally, I seek their opinions and their critiques and their advice. So with the anchors of the show I was producing, I would ask him, his name was Kyle Beachy, like, hey, Kyle, what would you tell somebody who was, starting off as an anchor? Or what are some things you would tell a new anchor to look out for? The more I practice, we have recordings, I would ask some of the female women anchors, Jessica Cook, like, hey, Jess, you mind looking at this and tell me what you think? Critique my posture, just seeking the knowledge base of the people who are already in the industry. Because in my mind, they're thinking, this girl is new. I don't know where he found her. And naturally, you need help. And I wanted to beat them to that. I don't want to give them the opportunity to say, oh, she needs help. I wanted to ask for it first to let them know and to establish that communication to where they see something that I need to work on, that they felt comfortable giving me those critiques. They felt comfortable helping me, because ultimately, I want to be the best, not the best in terms of competition or being better than the next person, but in the way where no matter what happens, I can sit back and breathe easy, knowing that I did my best and I put my all into it.
Yes. You know what I love about you is you are a high achiever, but you're humble with it as well too. You weren't going in there saying, oh yes, I know how to do this. And I appreciate your hesitation when he offered you the position.
Yeah.
I think anybody would kind of hesitate a little bit, but you took the time to think about it and really determine whether or not you were were ready for the job. I shouldn't say good enough, because of course you were good enough, but whether or not you felt like you were ready for the position. So after much consideration, a lot of time to think about it and talking to your village, you decided that you were going to accept the role. Now that you are the weekend anchor for going on almost a year now, can you talk about what all that involves? Because you mentioned before, people think about the glitz and the glam, but what is the work that goes into it? I imagine there's a lot, because you're hosting for 2 hours. So can you talk about what all you do?
Oh my goodness. I do a lot. I'm a little bit different than a more seasoned anchor. Because I'm on the fast track, I learned a lot of skills at once. And I kind of utilize all of them. So my weekend show is Saturdays and Sundays, 2 hours in the morning. But we're fortunate enough to have time on Thursdays and Fridays to produce our show. So me and my producer, we're at the station for about 10 hours working on our show. And I'm a versatile player. So sometimes I'm not always able to focus on my show that day. They'll send me out to collect a story, host an interview, or sometimes I have to fill in and anchor another show, or fill in and produce another show. I'm really that versatile player that can do a lot of the newsroom. But a typical day where I'm not doing all those jobs, I would assist my producer. I take on that assisting producer hat, and I help her out with our show, whatever she needs me to do. I take the time to read through my scripts, owning the copy, making sure that I know about what I'm reading about and that I can deliver it in a natural way. And I also give a little bit of creativity because I have experience as a producer. There are certain visual aspects that I want, or something new I may want to try to spice up the show, the look, the feel. I've helped produce or come up with several segments. We have a healthy bite segment, which is almost like cooking. Interviews, I love doing interviews. I love talking to people. Just that's the typical day in my life. It's always something different. It's always something new. I never know what I'm going to do until I get there.
Right.
But there is a lot that goes into that.
Are you responsible for the stories, or is that the job of the producer?
I'm responsible for the story that I collect that day, unless they have me doing multiple assignments. But if they send me out to collect a story, I'm responsible for writing it, editing, posting it to the web, making sure that once it's in the show, because I have that producer knowledge, when I put it in a show, there isn't really much that the producer has to do because I already know how to enter certain aspects to make a story clean. They assign it to an anchor and add a camera shot to it. But if they send me to multiple things, then typically I'm only responsible for about one story, and then we'll figure out how to get the other one written in-house.
So for your weekend anchor role, you're sometimes out in the field, not always at the desk.
Yes. So my show starts at 6 o'clock in the morning and it ends at 8 o'clock. And sometimes they'll send me to a story that starts at 10:30. So literally from the desk to the field within the same day.
Okay. Got it. Okay. But for your weekend anchor role, you're not having to go out in the field. Those stories are compiled and given to you to provide on the show?
Not all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have our weekend staff is kind of limited. And with this being a new show, we rely heavily on the news from the night before, as well as stories that our reporter collects throughout the day. But sometimes because the staffing is different on the weekends, I am required to go out there and offer that from desk to field experience. So sometimes I'll go out and collect a story, write it up, produce it so that we'll have it for the morning show the next day. So or sometimes if there's a fire, they'll send us out to go get footage of it, or I'm really it depends on what's happening that day and what we need. And more than likely I can feel that need. So it's a lot that I do that's not just anchoring at the desk.
Right. And so like you said, you kind of the go-to for all of that. And with that experience, you can do a number of different things for your show. And so it's not just you sitting behind the desk reading a teleprompter.
Exactly. Sometimes I'm out actually collecting the stories. And I like to do that because when I present them, I have a more personal feel, a more connection because I was there. I was in the environment. They had a really great time. And this is what such and such has to say about it. So it's like a full circle moment. Being out in the field, collecting it, having the knowledge of how the producer produces it, and then knowing what it's like to be the talent that presents it to the people.
Got it. As the anchor, do you have any creative control, like what will be covered and won't be covered? Or is that up to the producer?
I wouldn't say I have complete control, but it's definitely a collaboration. If there's a story that I want us to mention or a certain focus or a certain angle, I have the right, and it becomes a discussion with my producer about including it. But after a certain point, I have to allow my producer to do her job and produce. So I have a say that can lead to a conversation. But once I'm at that desk, whatever my producer goes with, that's what I have to roll with.
Understood. Okay, awesome. Well, that sounds like you're doing a lot of great things, though. And again, it's not just sitting behind the desk. You're still somewhat wearing that producer hat, which is really good.
Yes, they definitely keep me busy. And it has been hard transitioning from producer to anchor because there's a certain level of control that I had to let go of.
Oh, yeah. But you also said that you're filling in for others along the way as well, too. So I guess that's happening during the week.
Yes. Oh, I love those moments. Sometimes someone to take off or whatever the need is, they'll ask me if I could produce a show, and I'm always happy to do it because producing was kind of like my first love. So it's always kind of like a special little treat when I get to come back and fill in for a producer and produce a show.
But you also fill in for anchors as well, too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't say this a lot at work, but in my mind, I'm everybody's favorite fill-in because it doesn't matter what position. If I can do it, then I literally have no problem. And because I'm so new, I'm always happy to fill in because I take that as an opportunity to grow. I take it as another opportunity for experience,
Yes,
because every
learn.
show is different and every show requires something different from the producers and from the anchors. So I'm always so happy to just help out whichever way I can. But you have to be careful because this job can overwork you and you have to have a pretty good home and work balance. So with that, when I'm at home, I'm at home. Okay.
Right.
I am at
Right.
home. I am not thinking about work. But when I'm at work, I'm at work.
That's
Unless,
good.
I have those moments where I feel like being an overachiever and honing my craft at home. But I try to take that time to relax and refresh before I have to go back in.
So if I can ask on that note, what is your self-care routine like? How are you taking care of RaShaun on a daily basis so that you're able to give so much of yourself? And even like being on camera, and full disclosure, sometimes when I do this, I am tired, right? So how are you able to have that energy and that good face all the time, not just your beauty, but the good face of the energy and the smile and the stamina, as you said multiple times? What are you doing to help yourself maintain that?
Coffee. Coffee. But that is definitely a struggle. I think that's the hardest part of the job. Having my show starts at 6, which means I have to be at work at 3 a.m, which means I have to wake up around first alarm at 12. I have to be out the bed no later than 1:30. And the hardest part is putting on makeup. It's one thing to shower and get dressed. Okay, I can go. But having to, put on face, having to be up, having to bring that energy in the morning, that takes a lot. And bedtime is important. Sometimes because I work weekends, I will sacrifice some sleep to go out and have a good time because that's important,
Yes. Okay.
But sleep is having a schedule and sticking to it. Even on my off days, I make sure I'm up early as if I have to go to work so that it's not too much stress or it's not too hard on my body having to wake up. I mean, waking up at 12, 1 o'clock when most people are going to sleep after a good weekend, it's hard, especially during the summertime when the sun is out and blackout curtains are a must. But coffee and kind of just get in the habit of realizing like, hey, you have to. I have to present myself early in the morning. And it's not terribly hard because I've always been an early bird. This is just the next level of early. Right. But yeah, coffee and kind of just making myself wake up.
Right.
Definitely.
But you're putting in 10-hour days on Thursday and Friday as well too. Are you off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
So I work a different schedule. This is also something that was new for the station. I work 4 10-hour days. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'm working 10 hours, which gives me Monday through Wednesday off.
Okay, good. Okay.
And no complaints here. I will absolutely love that schedule.
Unless you're filling in for an anchor or a producer, that's your typical schedule. Got it. Okay, well, thank you for shedding light on all that for us. Because again, I think that a lot of times we just see the anchor and we think they show up and they look pretty and they read the teleprompter. And you're having a lot more input. And again, this is technically your show for 2 hours. So at times you're producing and providing input as well too, as necessary. So that's good to know that you're wearing all those multiple hats. As you said, you're pretty versatile there. So that's very good. Yeah. So within 2 months of starting your career with WEEK 25, after a period of time of job hunting, 2 months in, you're now the weekend anchor. And that was a brand new show. That was correct?
A brand new show. They never had a weekend morning newscast. It is a 2-hour long show. It's just me and a meteorologist. We touch on everything from local, national, international entertainment, and having the stamina and the confidence and the poise and connecting to the audience. A lot went into that, and it was such an honor. I always felt like I always had to force myself to see what other people see in me, because I know that they see greatness, but because I'm such a tough critic on myself,
Right.
it was
We all
always
are.
kind of hard. Yeah. So, I mean, it was such an honor. And I took it and I ran with it. I said, you know what? If it's just going to be me on these 2 hours, I'm going to do what I need to do. I worked on my stamina, on my breathing. I would read more and read out loud. I would go back and listen to myself. And I mean, it's such an honor. It's such an honor, because it's kind of like starting a legacy. You know, I was the first news anchor to launch, and we're coming up on a year. It'll be a year in 2024 of October. So it's been a roller coaster.
That's not kind of a legacy. That is a legacy.
Yes.
You should pat yourself on the back for that. And again, it shows their vote of confidence in you to be able to hold down a brand new show for 2 hours by yourself with a meteorologist. That is remarkable. And again, ladies and gentlemen, she just graduated in December 2020.
Yes.
And you've only been with that station now for a little over a year. Is that correct?
A little over a year.
Yes. So again, ladies and gentlemen, when she told me she was on the fast track, that's the fast track. I mean, that is phenomenal. Congratulations to you on that success.
Thank you so much. You know, they say when you walk in God's purpose, you are on an accelerated pace. And for so long, I've always fought news. I'm like, I know I did it in college, but I was still pursuing careers in radio. But once I actually accepted that this is what God has called me to do, and I walked in that path, I've just taken off.
Yes. Because you're doing what, like you said, is in his will to do. And another thing too is, you know, as a high achiever, sometimes you can be extra hard on yourself. And sometimes you may not realize just how great you are, because in your mind, you're not where you want to be yet. But to the outside world, it's like, she's great, you know, and you don't realize it. But I hope that you sit back now and reflect on all that has happened just in the past year. If I could just pass on a little something to you, this is something that I started doing about 5 to 6 years ago. I keep a notebook at my desk, and it says, be so great they can't ignore you, or something like that. And I will write down just little things here and there, and big things, because sometimes it is important to just for yourself, not for appraisals or anything like that, but just to keep track of all the great things that you're doing, because you have to remind yourself sometimes when you're stuck in your head, like, no, go back and read. Like, you were a weekend news anchor of a brand new show 2 months into the job, you know, like, that is amazing. And not even 3 years after graduating from college. That is remarkable. That is great. So if I may ask, Ms. Haynes, what are your future aspirations for your career?
Future aspirations. I mean, when I think right off, the first thing that comes to my mind is, I don't know. Because I didn't even see myself being here. And, you know, it's okay to say you don't know sometimes. Because things change, you change, plans change, things evolve. So right now, I would say, right off the top of my head, I don't know. Wherever God leads me, whatever opportunity comes or whatever door opens. But if I had to choose where I land, if I may, God, I definitely want to make my way to daytime TV in some aspect. I love Tamron Hall. I loved Oprah's Super Soul Sunday. So if I can do something kind of like that, I would be a happy camper.
I was thinking talk show host. I was thinking talk show host for you. I definitely can see that for sure. Absolutely.
That would be great.
Yeah, that I could definitely see that for you for sure. Any final thoughts? Is there anything that you would like to leave with the audience, or is there something that you would like to tell your younger self? Now's the time to do that.
The advice I would give is, don't be afraid to succeed, and don't take no for an answer. I feel like a lot of times we miss out on opportunities, not because we aren't worthy of them, or we don't deserve them or we aren't skilled enough to take them on. I feel like we miss a lot of opportunities because of our self-doubt and our fear. So don't be afraid, because you have to accept that a lot of things are out of your control. So don't be afraid to succeed and don't be afraid to fail. You have to try, because at the end of the day, that's the most satisfying thing, knowing that you tried. You tried. It's either going to work in your favor or it's not. So don't be afraid to succeed or fail, and don't take no for an answer. Just take that as a redirection to something else.
So your don't take no for an answer definitely sounds like that time when you were job hunting. But the part about not being afraid to succeed, is that something you feel like you had to tell yourself when you were offered that weekend anchor role?
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely.
Because I feel like the first thing we think of is like, we think of the glitz and glams, but then we think of all the ways we can mess it up. And I had a habit of doing that, thinking of all the ways. Okay, weekend morning anchor, I'm thinking about the clout and the notoriety that comes with it. But then I started to think about the responsibility and everything else that comes with it. And I kind of scared myself, and in a way, almost talked myself out of it. So don't be afraid to succeed. Don't be afraid to envision that for you and see yourself being successful. Because fear is a dream killer. Fear is a dream killer, whether it's self-fear or fear that somebody else places on you. It's a dream killer. So don't fear success and don't fear failure. It's inevitable. So
it is inevitable, but you can take that and learn some great things from it. And that's why they say there are no losses, there are only lessons, right?
I like that.
Yeah, I didn't create that. Someone else said that, but you can have it.
Thank you. I will pass it on.
Please do. RaShaun, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Again, I am just so amazed at the fast track that you have been on. I love that you're not afraid to be the small fish in the big pond so that you can grow. I love your determination. I love the hard work that you have put in. And as you have said, God is blessing you and favoring you on your path, and may he continue to do so for you. I am proud of you. I really am. And I look forward to all the great things that are yet to come. I really am.
Thank you so much. And I'm so inspired by what you're doing, because like you said, HBCUs, they're more than just party schools or athletics or things of that nature. There are great things happening at these organizations. There are great people coming up out of them. So kudos to you for taking the time to highlight them and find us and the success stories that come out of HBCUs, because there are more than people think. So it is an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I am honored that you took the time to be on the show today, and for being another great example of HBCU success. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Miss RaShaun Fast Track Haynes.
Thank you.
Tennessee State University graduate. Thank you so much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up another lecture on the HBCU Success Show. Make sure you like this video, comment below. RaShaun gave us so many great nuggets. Please let us know what resonated with you. What are you taking from this conversation? Make sure you share it with others that you think will benefit. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss another phenomenal conversation. Until next time, make sure your potential energy in motion, and I'll see you soon.
Go Big Blue.